Hey everybody, I only have 30 minutes before the sun sets and I just wanted to make a video of the books that I read in April. I read these books like the last week. I read one after the other because of this one subgenre of romance that I just fell into and I wanted more of it. I read 4 books and it's not a lot, but it's substantial to what I've read so far. Fortunately, all these books are ebooks, are not physical, which is my goal because 90% of the books on my shelf are not read. And I want to get more books, which is like ridiculous. So anyways, all to say, I'm going in order of the books that I read first and what I finished or whatever. I use Storygraph to log in my reading of the month, and I have a digital reading journal that I made on Canva. That's how I use my tracking. The first book I read and finished was Knotted by Pam Goodwin. It is part of a 3-book series called The Trials of Sin, and it is a dark romance, cowboy, ranch, country boy type story, and I am kind of back into my like country boy cowboy era because I was into cowboys like in 2022 and then I kind of got off it and now I'm back into it, but like with a darker twist. So I'm loving that. For me, I haven't found a book that gives me the same vibe as this series, but they're so good. There is Knotted, there's Buckled, and there's Budded. I only read Knotted and Budded just because I was feeling to read Budded so badly that I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna skip the second book. Like, I'm not gonna miss that much, and the character in the second book wasn't, you know, all that like enticing. But Lauren, who is the main character in Budded, these series are heavy on the triggers, so just like look all the triggers that you know that may arise so that you don't just go in and not know, like how I did. It's not a spoiler, but the main girl in book 1 gets assaulted, right, while her partner is present, right? So that's like a traumatic thing for all of them, especially her, and she is sent away or whatever because they're in a little town and like, you know, the drama of it all. And then she came back after she graduated. That's the time frame in book 1, and like we see the journey of them rekindling their love if it's possible because of the shit that happened in that town. And it's a nice story. I did rate it like I think a 3.5. They're just made for each other. Like the beginning of the story, when you read it, it's so cute, so nice, and then the horrible things that happen in this book is just like, whoa. I didn't think it was gonna be on page. The author does not shy away to say what needs to be said, but I don't get triggered easily, so it wasn't like a big deal for me, but I know it is a big deal for a lot of people. The next book that I read straight away was Bued, and Bued is a story about Lauren, who is the brother of the main character in the first book. In the past, in that book, he was like super sweet, super nice, but because of the events of the first book, that turned his character off, and now he's like a different kind of like person. He's more darker and he takes no shit. Like, he's very moody and broody, and like he is this character that he's in the background. He's not really a big participant in the series. Bued is so good, so good, so good. I love that book. I think I rated it at 4.25, and I haven't had a book that I have rated that high since the beginning of the year, you know? Yeah. And the thing is, I'm very stingy with my rating because a lot of books, they're just average, and I just don't want to give any and every book like 4-star or 5-star or like 6-star. I'm not that kind of girl. That's the second book that I read, and so now I'm like, okay, I'm into my reading bag and I really want to read like a dark romance. Like, I want some shit popping off because again, I read Budded and I'm like, I want something so similar, even if it's the same premise but different characters. I just give it to me. So I did like a Google search, and Goodreads recommended a couple of books that I read. They're not close to like a 4.25 because the next book I read is Sovereign by Raya Maurice Edwards. I rated this at 3-star. I was disappointed because this book could have gone there in so many different ways, but there are some scenes where a scene and a half really dark and you're like, oh my goodness. One scene, pool table, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm like, shit like this happens. Like, how is the author's brain functioning? Because like, how do you come up with these scenes? But hey, I was just rolling with the punch, so I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But then I feel like the connection between the characters was developed more and a bit more intense than what it is, and I wish they had like more moments together where you can see the connection growing. As a reader, I just didn't feel that much love, or like I'm rooting for these characters the way that I did with Lauren and Raina in Bued. Like Lauren and Raina, I'm obscenely obsessed with them. Like, favorite book of the month, hello, I really love them. If you see that it's darker, it's because the sun is gonna set in like 15 minutes, so I only have 15 minutes until I get natural lighting. The last book that I read in the month of April is called Breaking Him. Again, I was in my dark romance but cowboy version. You know, I just wanted a cowboy that would give me the same vibe as Lauren. This was recommended by Goodreads in the list. This was there and I'm like, okay, interesting, like, very quick read. And this is the kind of book that you would read but you don't want to get too attached to the main characters. This would be like the perfect book for you. Breaking Him is essentially about the main character, the girl, trying to get together with Elijah, who has a bad reputation in the small town, and so he's ostracized. In this setting, he is working for the main character at a barn, and she has a little crush on the guy. He's very much to himself. He doesn't like talk to anybody. There's a moment where something happens where he ends up saving her, and that's how the story begins to roll and like intertwine together, because now there's forced proximity but not really, because they work and live on the ranch. It's cute, and then you find out that like this book has a BDSM connotation, and like the dynamic between the two is kind of like that. He discovers that he has a dominant nature in him because she's into submissive shit that works for their dynamic. It's cute, it's not as intense. When it comes to dark romances, I wish all of them had like the intensity that it feels toxic. You know, it's like, dang, in real life y'all should never be together, but because it's a fictional book, like I live for it, I'm eating it up. But this book, it was cute. I feel like because these are BDSM type vibe, they both know like what they're doing, but I feel like I wish there was an element to the story that informed the readers of what was happening, of like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, and explain it to the person who doesn't know what it is about, even though he used the internet to read up on the stuff. This book, you know, it gave a vibe. If I didn't read it, it wouldn't like make any difference to me, honestly. In a couple of months I'll probably forget what it's about unless I read the synopsis. You can skip this book. I've read so many better dark romances than the past two books. I don't think I'm gonna be keen on reading these authors. I think I'm currently in a phase where I want to read books where the main characters are just obsessed with each other to the point where it's like toxic. Even if the relationship is not deemed healthy, I just need that intensity, that love, that obsessive nature, the possessiveness that characters have for each other, because I think that's what's missing in the books that I've been reading. Like, it's cute, it's whatever, it's normal, but you know, I want a little razzle dazzle, okay? Anyways, that's the 4 books I read in the month of April. As you can already tell, but it was my favorite book of the month, and I will not be shying away from reading from Pam Goodwin. I know she dabbles in fantasy, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I'm gonna see what other books that she has, but right now, like, if I want to read dark romance, it has to be like a country boy or a country girl, something in a small town setting, and I'd love that. I'm also looking for like black country books, because again, that's just like the vibe that I'm in. It's getting like literally very dark. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I explained myself. I don't know if this is even gonna be posted, like, dead ass, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.